All right, guys, what's going on? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. And you know what? Now that we have the release date of XDefiant and the fact that a lot of people are anticipating the game, there is, of course, the other side of the fence that I want to talk about, and that is the one thing that most people that support XDefiant, like myself, however, these a lot of these guys just simply either don't want to hear it or don't believe in it, but we have to at least acknowledge the fact that it is a possibility. I would say at most it's a 50-50 shot that this will or will not happen. And that is, well, what if X Defiant fails? At this point right now, I think for a lot of people, especially Call of Duty refugees, X Defiant feels like the only chance at to a certain degree even saving multiplayer video games. And what I mean by that is, like, basically all multiplayer games nowadays have skill-based matchmaking in there in regular pub matches, and have their own version of engagement optimized matchmaking. Granted, not all of them are exactly like Call of Duty's, but they are there for pretty much a similar purpose. They just don't mess with you exactly the same way, but one way or another you're getting screwed, right? Halo Infinite has its own version of engagement optimized matchmaking, right? It's called True Skill 2.0. It is skill-based matchmaking, but at the same time, when you dig in a little bit and do a little bit of research or see what some of the pros might have been saying or whatnot, retired pros, at least one that I know of, it's got its own version of engagement optimized matchmaking, so to speak. But anyway, let's get into what if X Defiant fails, shall we? So we have to, first of all, we have to acknowledge the fact that it is a possibility. A lot of people do not believe that this month from the last play test session that we had, which only lasted about 2 days, 2.5 days, we don't believe that it is enough. Well, a lot of people don't believe that it was enough to fix problems, right? In terms of the desync and all that other stuff, the connections, yada, yada, yada. And of course, you've got the other side of the fence to where I remember when the last play test that we had went offline, people were also like, launch the game now. A lot of them, believe it or not. So we actually have a lot of people on both sides that believe one way or the other, right? Obviously, the people that wanted it released ASAP are going to be very happy with the fact that it's coming out this month, myself included. However, even though I support the game 100%, you guys listening to this video, as well as the game of XDefiant itself, are the two things that are solely responsible for this channel actually getting resurrected from the dead, literally, and then some. So now, from a personal standpoint, one thing I want to say is that I very much acknowledge and don't mind when people say that this game might be dead after 3 or 6 months or sooner, right? It doesn't bother me because in my mind, it is still a possibility. And if you've been around long enough, you will pretty much know and learn that, never say never, so to speak, right? Anything can happen in the possible world of entertainment. It's really easy to go from bad to worse. It's really easy to go from good to bad, but at the same time, it is also possible to go from bad to good. We've seen that in multiple cases with Call of Duty, like Call of Duty World War II, for instance. The first 6 months or so of that game, a lot of people hated it, and the next thing you know, before the overhaul, a lot of people loved it. Unfortunately, what ended up happening with that game was that it was too late, and that's what I want to get into right now. A lot of people believe that XDefiant has been delayed for so long that it is too late for anybody to, like, come back, so to speak. But the only thing I can think of off the top of my head right now while having this conversation with you guys is that, the game really hasn't launched. But at the same time, as much as I would love to be wrong, I can't help but actually acknowledge and kind of, partially nod my head at least to the fact that these guys believe that it's too late. However, with that being said, every single time XDefiant has a play session going on, people are hyped as hell. Now, granted, we haven't had something like the beta that lasted a lot longer. We've had pretty much just that open play session. We had the 12 after the betas were over. We had a brief 12-hour play session for PC only, and then for all platforms as of almost 2 weeks ago, we had a 48-hour play session that got extended to 54 hours or whatnot, right? So it really is a very interesting position that we're in with XDefiant right now, because it really can go either way. Now, again, like I said, I support it. Like, I am rooting for XDefiant. You guys don't understand. I am absolutely positively rooting for XDefiant. And at the same time, there are a few very wise and people that are close to my age out there that have been doing this whole Call of Duty thing forever and stream now and used to do YouTube and now stream or vice versa, like people that are not shills, people that speak from logic, people that are legends in the community. One of them I just can't help, like after we got the beta, the final beta or whatnot, not the recent play session, but the final beta, I couldn't help but always remember what he said, and he had a point. It's like, well, other than Call of Duty itself, has there ever been a game kind of like it that has been successful? I mean, when you think about it, what's it called? Battlefield Hardline tried to be arcadey. It didn't make it. It was a great game, and it was hated among the community. Titanfall 1 and 2, both great games, didn't survive. Right? You can argue that Titanfall 1 was just an Xbox exclusive, which is why it didn't survive, and then they fixed that with Titanfall 2, and let alone despite the fact that Titanfall 2 was even better and even has a cult following now and is one of the best first-person shooters to come out in the last 10 years, and it actually released 10 years ago. My goodness, time flies. You can't ignore the fact that it didn't survive. Was part of it timing? Was part of it design? Was part of it the lack of content? Was part of it because it wasn't enough like Call of Duty, despite the fact it was its own arcade shooter? Was it the Titans that ruined the game? Some people will say yes, some people will say no. Were there not enough pilot game modes? Some people will say yes, so some people will say no. Were there not enough weapons? Some people will say yes, some people will say no. You get my point here. Do you guys know the pattern here? History tends to repeat itself, and I hope at this point right now that it doesn't repeat itself. I don't want it to, because I'm rooting for this game. I want this game to survive. I want this game to have a continuous amount of support by all fans. We're not just talking about the pro scene. We're not just talking about the content creators, but we want casual players in there too. Now, one thing that XDefiant does have on its side, though, is the fact that it's free to play. But another game that came out multiplayer-wise that was free-to-play in about 3 years ago was Halo Infinite. And that game had a lack of multiplayer, had a lack of content for multiplayer. It had a whole bunch of other problems and stuff like that we pretty much all know of, whether you know of Halo or not. And, I mean, that game lost. It's still going on to this day. It's still alive. It hasn't died. But the game lost a very, very, very big chunk of its player base after about the first 3 months, I think, give or take. And a lot of it was because of lack of content coming out. Now, granted, 6 weeks later, after XDefiant releases, we're going to be getting content. And again, 3 months later, we're going to be getting content. So what happened with Halo was that we didn't start getting content until about 9 months out. And if we got something beforehand, it was so minuscule that it didn't even count. You might as well not have counted it as content. So we have a very mixed bag of certain events that have happened in the past with certain games, and as well as the distant past with certain games. But these are history lessons that we can't really forget about. And I can't help but think that there are certain things that are coming into play here that are obviously against XDefiant. However, XDefiant is unique in and of itself, because you have a unique group of devs that are actually passionate about what they're doing. They want to release the games into the hands of the player. They want to be transparent. There's no skill-based matchmaking in pubs, okay? Unless it's proven otherwise after release, as of right now, I don't believe there is, despite the fact that there were nothing but sweats. And again, who else is going to play a damn 2-day test session? You know what I mean? Let alone know about it. But again, some people will argue that there is, but hey, I respect your opinion, and I totally see where you're coming from. I've done a video on that. But you guys get what I'm saying here. Now, some of you guys might be wondering what's going to happen to your channel, Jack, right? Sometimes I get asked that on stream. Like, Jack, what's going to happen to your channel? My answer remains the same, and that is that this channel, whether it goes back into the grave, so to speak, like it was prior, if XDefiant fails, is something that I'm not going to lose sleep over it. It is a little bit of a sad thing, but at the same time, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I could still stream the game. I can still stream many different games. Maybe I could just focus on making content on my second channel and just focus on that. Again, this is still a hobby. Even after 9 years of doing this, this is still a hobby, and still there's no money being made from this. So therefore, especially since there's no money being made, I have yet one more reason, and an important reason, to not really worry about it. So the good news is that when one door closes, a whole bunch more open. So there's a whole bunch of different things I can do to this channel, including let it be idly by, and I can just focus on my second channel, or I could just do multi-content on here, depending on whatever I want to do. I don't know. But at the end of the day, whether XDefiant fails or doesn't fail, if it doesn't fail, obviously this channel will have some room for growth. And if it does fail, it's going to be a lot harder for it to grow, if at all. But you know what? That's okay. It really is okay. I don't live my life via the control of YouTube, so to speak, right? Again, there is some influence in terms of every once in a while what kind of videos I put up and stuff like that. Sure. I mean, I would love to do multi-commentary videos talking about all sorts of stuff, but obviously YouTube doesn't like that for a channel of mine, because what I do is what I'm doing now in terms of what I'm talking about, what I'm covering, the game itself, et cetera, where the interest lies, right? What this channel was built for in the first place. So, but with that being said, again, when one door closes, a whole bunch more open, and for other content creators out there, there's a lot of really talented content creators out there that are way better at doing this than I am, that have become way more successful than I have ever been in a much, much shorter amount of time. All these guys over here, they're probably going to do the same thing. They're going to continue to do what they love to do, and they're going to try to figure out to be successful at it, and, I tip my hat to them. So as far as this channel is concerned, I'm not really worried about it. And at the same time, again, I'm just here for the ride, because if XDefiant does succeed, I'm going to ride it out. If XDefiant doesn't succeed, it's okay. You got to try to be as optimistic as possible for the future. And you got to look at the other things that you wouldn't be looking at if it wasn't for XDefiant, right? It's like, think about it. It's like, let's say you have an interest in something, but you don't have time for it. Well, all you got to do is stop doing something else, and then all of a sudden, wham, bam, you've got some time to do that other thing. Sometimes it's easier said than done, no doubt about it. I understand it. But at the same time, it really is that simple. And it's just about pretty much applying yourself to it and just kind of going from there, and just going through the motions and learning from it and moving forward. That's it. That's all you can do, really. At the end of the day, you're always going to run into banana peels in life, right? So, and the same thing goes with video games and content creation. If XDefiant ends up being an epic banana peel, that's okay. We get up from slipping from the banana peel and we walk forward, and hopefully another opportunity will present itself, or another idea will come into play, and et cetera, et cetera. You just never know sometimes. But anyway, in other words, I'm just going to continue to do what I enjoy doing and what I want to do. And if I don't want to do anything, I won't do it. Simple as that. So that's kind of a question I wanted to answer a little bit as far as this channel is concerned. But in terms of XDefiant, again, I'm very optimistic, but at the same time, I am one of those people that does see the other side of the fence. And when people think, there's people out there that'll say that this game might die, or, et cetera, what might happen or whatnot, I see their point of view, and it's something that I do not ignore. But, until or if that happens, I'm going to support the game, because I have high hopes for the game. I'm excited about the game, despite its shortcomings in a few areas. But I look at those as temporary problems that will get solved in time, and that will get solved a lot faster than it did with Halo Infinite, especially when you consider the transparency of the devs and the passion that they have, and the fact that they actually know what they're doing. I actually believe that the XDefiant devs know what they're doing. And at the same time, since I'm not a dev, I have no right to tell them on whether or not they're capable of doing what they're doing. If I knew what Mark Rubin knew, or if I knew a lot more about game development and stuff like that from a first-hand basis, then I would have the right to say something. But since that's not the case with me, I'm going to respectfully listen to what they say until I see something else otherwise from a player's perspective to call them out. And if I do need to call them out, trust me when I tell you, I will. But until then, until the game releases, it would be too premature to do so. But anyway, with that being said, guys, that's it. That's all I got to say on this one. And I want to know, what are your opinions on this? What are your opinions? Do you believe in the game? Are you 50-50? Are you have you lost the hype? What do you guys think? Because you never know. It could be the opposite. It might start out slow, and then all of a sudden it might grow. You just never know. But anyway, guys, thank you all as always for taking the time to watch and or listen, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.